passionate about Cleveland sports.
He's going in, touchdown!
Browns, Indians, Cavs, the Big Ten, and more.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again!
Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond.
Swing it and drive! To deep right!
Here are your hosts, Andy Billman and Jarid Watson.
Hello. What's up, everybody? Welcome. This is Andy and Jarid, Cleveland Beyond. I'm still getting used to saying the title of the show. Postseason preview for the Cleveland Indians. We're still waiting on a roster spot for the Indians. It looks like the Astros just released their final roster position is now full. Andy, what'd they end up doing?
Nothing really too surprising. Not knowing what the Astros do on day to day, I don't see anything that really sticks out to me. Gaddis was one that was shaky, but he made the team. And like I said, I don't follow enough of the. Tony Sipp was another guy who was on the edge, but he made it. We're familiar with Sipp.
Yep.
And we should take this as a piece to the Indians. These last roster spots are just that, they're last roster spots. They really don't. They do affect more than what we think, but they don't affect the overall series either. Meaning, they're not going to affect inning to inning. They're going to affect one moment or two moments. So, no, it looks like the pretty standard stuff. To jump right into it with what you're leading off to, finally the playoffs are here. And what we do know going in, and it's about 5 o'clock on Thursday to kind of give people a time reference. Right now, we know Geyer's in. We know Otero's in over Tomlin.
Yeah, Geyer was a surprise to me.
Geyer was a surprise to me, too. I did not think he had the greatest of years. Even in the field, at times, he had some moments that he had a sloppy glove. But for what it's worth, they put him in there. Now the decision today is going to come down to Rajai Davis or to Eric Gonzalez. So let's go either or here in case whatever happens. Let's say Rajai Davis makes it, which is what my gut would tell me.
That's where I'm leaning.
Yeah. You got speed on the base path, which you like. The one thing I would say about that is and they've kind of, Paul Hoynes wrote about it and others mentioned it too, and is what I was thinking. You have no safety blanket of an infielder. You're really going to rely on Kipnis to really come in from the outfield to replace someone in case you want a pinch hitter. And obviously for first baseman, you have Yandy Diaz who can come in there if need be. So that's kind of where you're at. You're kind of leaving yourself hanging there with one middle utility infielder. With that said, I think that's probably the proper move because Eric Gonzalez did not have a good he had a typical sophomore year, second year in the big leagues. The other way is that you take Eric Gonzalez, you lose some speed with Davis, but you got your security blanket. Not as exciting and player as Davis in my mind, but again, it's a security blanket, and we've all seen what happened last year. One injury away and he could be in a pickle. But again, I don't want to nitpick this too much. This is the final moments, and Geyer has had big hits. He had a big hit in the World Series, so I don't want to say Geyer's never shined in the spotlight. That's not true. He's had big moments in the playoffs. But I'll toss it to you after that. I agree with you. I would have taken Davis and Gonzalez, but I think now they're going to look at Davis and Geyer. But time will tell.
I think the bigger move here that I think that I'm still. Again, in Tito we trust. I want Tomlin. I want Tomlin over Otero. I don't really like that move. I'm hoping that I'm proved wrong. I hope we don't even need to really. If we're going to Otero, that's not a good sign anyway. And the other issue that I'm still seeing here is I had heard this morning, and again, I may have heard this incorrectly. Is I was under the impression that Game 3 was still up for debate, whether Clevenger was going to start or not. But after we talked and looking at what I've seen after that, is that it is solidly going to be Clevenger's game. Where do you think Bauer fits in 1 and 2? And if he's overused in those first 2 games, which I don't really know how they would overuse him, unless something happened again, it would end up being an injury with one of our starters. How's he going to, is he going to be ready for a Game 4 start if needed?
Well, the answer is yeah. Bauer's got a rubber arm. I think basically what they're going to say is he's going to
200 pitches if he could.
Yeah, he could, truthfully. And at the same time, Bauer's actually had moments where he uses his pitching day, which basically for people who may not know, a pitcher usually takes 2 or 3 days before and has a day where he pitches 30 or 40 pitches to get ready for his start. Yeah. So Bauer would use one of those for Game 1 and Game 2. I actually think it's smart starting Clevenger 3 because you need to give a mindset to your staff of where you're at And I don't think it's good mental skating as a starting 3 or 4 to not know what's going into game 3. I actually like that. It kind of sets something as a precedent, and also kind of gives Bauer a mindset of what he needs to do to get ready for game 4 in case he's ready. I'm not as worried about game 4 now that I know Clevenger's in 3, because Bieber and Bauer is probably going to be a combination, to be honest with you.
Right.
Even if Bauer does start, he's not going to go more than 60. Well, I shouldn't say that. He's not going to go more than probably 80 or 90 pitches. And if he does, his arm strength has really improved in the last 2 weeks. So that's what you're looking at no matter what. So I'm okay with this. This is kind of the way I thought it was always going to play out. So I'm not surprised by any of that. To your original point about Otero and Tomlin, and we kind of mentioned this on the last podcast, if Otero and Tomlin's in a spot, it's probably not a good sign. It means the game's probably a blowout.
Right.
So I don't want to nitpick over Otero and Tomlin too much. It's a coin flip. You could argue either way. I agree with you. I'd rather see Tomlin in that spot because he's been in the World Series. He's had moments. He's at the end of his career too, so I don't want to overspeak for him, because truthfully, Tomlin in a big spot would make me really nervous. So that is what it is. We talked about Geyer. You kind of hit upon it, and we'll go back to the starts here in a little bit. But this is all about Francona, and I'm a big Francona guy. He knows his team better than any of us ever will.
It's hard to go against him. It's hard to nitpick him. It's hard to critique him. And those who do, I feel bad because they usually get attacked pretty hard. But what exactly has Tito done that should be critiqued? I'm not seeing a lot of things. So that's why I feel this way.
No, I agree. I think that was the right move for whatever he feels is best. He is one of the few managers, coaches that have come through Cleveland where I'm like, whatever, even when I disagreed, I've disagreed with actually 2 or 3 of his moves already. At the end of the day, I fall back on he knows his team better than any of us do, and all coaches do, obviously. But I just feel it's very hard to nitpick on him. Francona, to me, has really done a nice job setting up this team for what we're about ready to see here tomorrow and into the weekend and into hopefully the next few weeks. I love what he did at the end of the regular season to get this team ready to go for October.
It's another reminder that record, if you're looking at records alone, don't be fooled. Do not make that mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people say this, so I'm going to say confidently, the Indians, they would have put their gas down. They would have won 100 games. They didn't need to.
No, they had no need to. And Tito knew that.
Correct.
And the rest is given when needed. The breaks are given when needed. And, your job is to get to the postseason. End of story.
Correct. People who read into records too much should really take a breath. They were not going to catch the Astros from where they were when they were starting to get healthy. So why do it? And in fact, really the Indians, I think, had proven something with what they did. Because of what they did, everybody's now healthy. And again, that's the first time they weren't all healthy. They certainly weren't all healthy in 16.
No.
And in 17, we still had some players out with injuries. So this is the first time lock and loaded really since the end of July into August with the addition of Donaldson. Everybody's ready to go. So Francona's done a great job. We'll certainly debate moves on this podcast, but if Francona we do trust, he's one of my all-time favorites. I love his attitude. I love his style, and he really represents the city well. And, playing off of that and going into what we're going to see now. So let's go into game 1 and because that's what's going to be ballyhooed a lot, and it's already been ballyhooed a lot by the national press. Kluber and Verlander. I mean, that's a great start off to game 1. Game 2 is going to be Carrasco and Cole. Cole has been a thorn in the side of the Indians in the past. He has always had the Indians number, so hopefully we can figure him out. Then Clevenger and Keuchel in game 3. All these – I think because of who we know, and we say the Clevelanders and Indians fans, we know Verlander probably better than most. And obviously the Indians have hit Verlander very hard.
Absolutely.
So I love that matchup. And Kluber's actually done a pretty nice job against the Astros. So I like that matchup. The one that, if I'm being truthful, is Carrasco and Cole. Not Carrasco, it's Cole. Cole has always done a really nice job against the Indians. He's really kept them at bay. And this year when he pitched against them, the Indians were really having fits.
Did Bauer get ruffle feathers with Cole and all of the Astros about that ball spin rate comment that he had made? Is that even going to be, because I mean, it apparently it ticked the Astros team off whenever he said it. Is that bulletin board material, or is baseball different from football? Do they not use that stuff to get riled up? Because I don't know whether it's even a big deal to me. And then secondly, I got another one, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. A healthy Bauer, is there a possibility that he gets that game one start? It's, would that have possibly been up for grabs? I know that's super hypothetical, but
I think it's a big hypothetical if the Indians win. They go to the ALCS. I don't think it was ever in play. And the only reason why I say that is he's only really pitched for a week and a half, 2 weeks. It's just so hard to go on that. And you don't have someone who's like, it's a B. Kluber's an ace. I mean, he deserves that start. He's earned that start. Focusing on Kluber, though, and we haven't brought this up in his time. Kluber really had a disappointing October last year. And, I think we've all kind of brushed it aside as Indians fans. Well, I think it's time to bring it back up. This is a big couple starts for him. Not for him. He's always going to be great. He does wonderful things for the Indians. And really, he's a great picture for not just this season and past seasons. He's going to be an all-time Indian. But this start and these starts coming up are really big for Kluber to kind of shrug off what happened last year, in my opinion. I don't know, what do you think? But I think this start has a lot of juice to it. This is the first time I think Kluber's going to feel a little pressure, which I think is good.
Right.
Because he really needs to come off pitching well against Verlander tomorrow.
Well, we talk about the pitching, but the Indians have not hit well whatsoever. Around 220 against the Astros this season. Lindor and Ramirez are both going to be key in this lineup, hitting the ball. And I'm going back to Donaldson, and the hope that no matter what, he's going to he'll be a guy that can pick up the offense as well. But the Indians don't have room to disappear offensively. Their bats cannot disappear against this Astros team. They were outscored by the Astros during the season, nearly 50-20 something. It was lopsided. Now the Indians were only lost the season series by a game to them. I know postseason baseball is night and day difference. But bats, it still matters, I think, when you look at the bats and how they've hit consistently throughout the year against the Astros.
What I would say is the bottom half of the lineup is far different from when it was when they played the Astros last, which was around the time when the Celtics series was happening. They're far different lineup. I know what you're saying, and I agree. I actually think Jose is coming into a good spot. We've all talked about his 6 past weeks. I'm a big believer. He's my favorite player in the Indians. I love Jose Ramirez. He's one of my favorite guys. Love his story. Love his attitude. He's very confident. He's a bulldog. He fights hard. I think Ramirez is going to be ready to go. I think Lindor is another guy. We talked about Kluber. Lindor also last year, except for one huge grand slam, that was a big hit. I won't take it away. Lindor also has something to prove. He really did not hit well either last year against the Yankees. So, those two have a lot to go. And again, to your original point, this team is so changed from that point when they last played in those games around the Celtics. It just that whole thing has changed. Donaldson's there. Melky's been there every day. Jan Gomes really had a great second half. Kipnis had a nice last 4 or 5 weeks in the year. The lineup has really changed. I actually think the Indians are ready to roll. I really do. The only thing that I've heard a lot about, which I'm a big believer in, but I've heard people really talking, passively sometimes. I think the bullpen's ready. I think Cody Allen's had a great end of the year. I think Miller getting rest and getting his pick and choose starts. I think that pick and choose moments to come on, I thought was good for them. I like that. Brad Hand looks really good to me. Simber, I'm kind of starting to figure out Simber. He reminds me a lot of Brian Shaw. He doesn't work as many innings, but he has moments where he's shut down, and he has moments where he gets tattooed. I'm just kind of taking that's who Simber is, and that's fine. But I think the bullpen, along with Oliver Perez, I really like where this bullpen is. And again, if trouble does arise, Bauer's ready to go.
Bauer and Bieber. I mean, you can't forget Bieber. That I think that is a huge difference maker looking at postseason baseball as to the regular season. Is you're not held hostage by middle relief that's struggling. You can move some of those guys that got quality starts throughout the season into that bullpen, and it really beefs up that middle to back end.
No, agreed. So I think the real bullpen, I think it's here. I know it's been a roller coaster ride, and there's been so many moments with this team, but with the trades, with Miller's health, with Cody Allen figuring out what he needed to do, I think we've actually landed at a point where I feel very confident about it. The only thing I'd mention about, which you haven't talked about, is the boomer bust with the Indians, which I've seen a lot this year. Big innings, no runs next game, back and forth, bing, bing.
And walk-offs given up.
Yeah, it's been a lot of that this year. The Indians, I hope, will kind of break away from that and become more consistent. The one thing I guess we should all remember about this team is what I've seen all year, and if it proves out to be true, I guess we should be all, be hopeful. When the Indians haven't hit, it seems like it's a disease throughout the whole lineup. Or the opposite, when one person hits, the whole team catches fire. They've really been that way. I mean, most of the year, really. A lot of the times, the Indians have had several big innings throughout the year, and then they'll have moments where it looks like they can't even get a fly ball in the air.
Oh, it's painful.
So it is. And the Indians have really had that throughout. It's not been just recently. It's been throughout the year. So hopefully that kind of stuff goes away. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency. But all that being said, I feel I mentioned it and I'll hit it at home again. This is the best tune-up going into playoffs I've seen the Indians in the last 3 years. They're set. They're ready to go. I don't feel like anybody's been overplayed, certainly. Tweaks have been needed to be made, and it's been made properly. Bauer's the only thing, and that you can't help that. This is an injury that happened, and he came off. But even that is landed about as calmly as you can expect.
Right.
I feel pretty good about this. Now, the thing that looks really the Indians in the face is you're in the NBA West of MLB baseball. I mean, even if you get by the Astros, which we'll get to next, you still got the Red Sox and Yankees on the other half.
You watched that game last night. Unreal.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Yankees here in a minute, but this is a tough race here for the Indians. And to start off against the Astros, to give people some reference, I've been looking at different various websites and analysts. And
first time, by the way, the Indians have ever faced the Astros in postseason, I believe.
Yes, correct. The Astros have been pretty much the heavy favorite. It's about 1-3. So the Astros are definitely seen to be the favorite to most people. About 66% people say, and by the way, in fairness, they should be. They're the defending champs. They're at home. They got the aces. Ozuna is really a good closer. For people who don't remember, he came over in the trade with the Blue Jays. That was very controversial. It was at the time he was having some assault charges against them. Yeah. Those have actually gone away. People can debate that on another show, another podcast. But Ozuna's here, and he's nasty in a big spot. And he can really pose a threat. The big thing about the Astros that we all learned from last year, which I've seen different things and reading whatever, their lineup last year was just on fire, whether it was Altuve or Carrera or Springer or Gurriel. All those guys can really rake. From what I've been reading in the last 24, 48 hours locally in Houston, there seems to be sprouts of guys who are still doing that. Not as hot as they were last year. Not nearly. Correct. Carlos Correa's really had a strange year. He's not performing as well. But still, it's the Astros and it's Altuve. And look, I mean, they can flex their muscles and it gets scary. The Astros really do have a lot of big bats. So when I see going in a series, and if I were looking across, the other side of the dugout, you see a team that has won a World Series. So the first thing that comes to mind is, well, are they hungry to repeat? Well, you'll probably get that figured out pretty quickly. The Astros should not be feeling any pressure because they are the champs. So hopefully the Indians can use that as an advantage. Because I'm curious to see the sense of urgency from the Astros. Well, it's hard to repeat in sports.
Speaking of the urgency, let's talk small ball real quick. The Indians 2 years ago were about the best small ball team you'd see around. They did everything fundamentally perfectly in my mind, defensively. And when you're on the base path, you're getting the steals, you're getting the hit and runs. If the bunts need laid down, great. Do the Indians still have that ability in those tight games for these to steal a game one or a game two if needed, and get this started off the way we need?
Half.
Yeah.
They can steal bases. They can really steal bases. Bunting, frankly, bunting's been scary. This team, bunting and sacrifice flies. Sacrifice flies is always hard to debate because, I mean, there's at times where sacrifice flies can really come into play.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to really – I don't remember the Indians hitting as many sacrifice flies here, but again, I don't want to quantify that because it changes from game to game, season to season. Bunting, though, when the Indians have tried to bunt, boys, have been what's the proper term?
I've seen it work out, but not often.
I don't know. This team's not a good bunting team. So I guess when it comes to that kind of stuff, I'll say I will hold judgment. Steals, the Indians are pretty good at stealing bases, and they're aggressive. So I do see that coming into play. Certainly Ramirez is a good example of that. Lindor is too. So I do see those kind of things where, when it comes back and you really take a bigger look at it, the Indians, when you say small ball, stealing bases, yes. Bunting and sacrifice flies. I mean, the Indians have really not done a lot of that this year. And again, their bunting when they have has been low. They're just not a very good bunting team. So I don't know how much you're going to see that.
Another update real quick on Yan Gomes, 2 stitches in his thumb, and he has no restrictions in regard to throwing the ball down to first, second, third, any of that. It doesn't seem to be in a spot where it's affecting how he's throwing. So that's more good news, which we already knew Yan was going to be okay. But yeah, 2 stitches in that thumb and no restrictions as of what I read today. So that's good news.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. So, looking at everything we just said, I mean, I think the other little things to remember here and there is, for people who talk about Jose's 6 weeks, you can wash that away. And it's the same thing fair to say, Melky and Donaldson, they've had Kipnis, they've all had positive ends of the year. It's now October. The page turns. So everything's a new season now. You got to remember that baseball is the one sport, it does not carry as well as others. It can really change on a series pitcher to pitcher matchup. Yeah. So you got to go with what you know. Everything you know, Jared, and everything you've seen from the Tribe, what do you see the series playing out?
Man, it's going to go 5.
Most people are saying that.
It's going to go 5, and I honestly call it a coin flip of who takes it. The Indians, not only of it's all up to their bats, I think. I really think it comes down to their bats, and can the bats come alive on the road? Can they take a game 5 in Houston? That's what I'm focused on. Lindor and Ramirez. I mean, those are going to be the game changers in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Indians will win this in 4. I think Houston's going to have a little bit harder time getting up to the series. Optimism. I feel very confident about the Indians. Yeah. I just love how, people could probably read off my language. I love how this season has ended. I love how the tinkering's gone down. I think Kluber is going to play with an edge tomorrow. I think Clevenger is going to have an edge to him at home. I think it's good. I think they'll split in Houston. I think Kluber's going to win tomorrow. I think Verlander will get hit a little bit by the Indians.
Taking game 1 is going to be huge. If they can do that, and you're right about Verlander. And what version of Verlander were we getting? At this point in his career, is he going to have that fire in his belly? And because I think Kluber, he's got more of a chip on his shoulder at this point in the postseason than Verlander. Verlander at this point, he's solidified his legacy, I guess, if you want to call it that way. I don't think he has as much to lose. I think this would hurt Kluber, his performance, if he doesn't show up tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the flip happens and Kluber does have a bad outing. Those things can carry. Again, it won't ruin your overall legacy at the end of the day, or it won't ruin what you do next year. It doesn't, but it sticks in people's minds. So I think it's a big start for him. And again, legacy is one thing. Memories are different. People might remember you more for losing, and that's where it really comes into play. So we'll see what happens. I have faith in all this. Maybe I'm too believe land here, but I do like the Indians in 4. I just think it's tough for Houston to repeat. I really do. And again, Houston's not had the cleanest of years compared to what I think people have in their heads. When you really read the local press, you can see that there's some holes here. And Osuna is very good, but he has been hit in the playoffs when he's played for the Blue Jays, so he's not unhittable. And I think that should also be reminded. I know Osuna's very good. He's strong, but the Indians have hit him too when he's been with the Blue Jays. So I think that's something else that should come into people's head. Don't be too afraid of certain relievers and how their presence comes in the mound. Real quickly to what you alluded to, moving to what happened yesterday, Wednesday night in the Bronx. This is the team I'm afraid of, and this is the team knocked the Indians out last year. The Yankees just flexed their muscles.
Wasted no time. No time.
thank you, Moneyball and Analytics. We'll take your relievers and spit you out. They really set the tone with 2 batters in the game. This lineup's lethal. And, I don't want to hang too much on the A's, but the A's have to – here's what I've come off on I actually have one opinion about the reliever thing. It reminds me a lot of when people were on the wishbone or the option in college football. When it works and you're ahead, it can really lean on you and it can gas you out. That's why Navy and Army can be a team that you don't want to play, because if they're in the game and the game is tight, those things can wear you down. Relievers are the same thing. At points, you need length, though. If you don't have length, you're having a trouble. And last night showed Fernando Rodney was awful, really got clobbered, and from that moment on, the game was over.
Yeah, the tone was set.
The tone was set with Judge, but Fernando Rodney hammered it home when he got hit around.
And those home runs were not – they were no joke. Those were bombs.
Big pops. So, the Yankees move on. And this is a fun series. I live in New England, and I can't wait for the Indians Astros. I will admit, I will be sitting and drinking wine or beer at a local pub watching Yankees and Red Sox.
You don't see me right now, Andy. I've got my wine actually right now.
Yeah. Well, it's a fun series. For people who've never experienced it, I lived in Ohio for Michigan, Ohio State. It's Michigan, Ohio State. It's Duke, Carolina. It's that kind of fevery pitch.
Yep.
It's fun stuff. This is the first time I'll be playing since the magical Copper ride where the Sox came back from 0-3 down to beat the Yanks. I've actually been to an ALCS game with those two. I went in 0-4 to game 1. It's an incredibly intense rivalry, and it's a great rivalry. And this year, there's no doubt of what you're getting into because both teams have won 100 games, because these two teams have been at it. And if you haven't lived here, these two have been talking about this all year, and now we've landed in this spot. As a quick perspective, I don't want to hang on too long. I'm actually going to come out and say it. I hate saying this. I love the Yankees in this series, and it drives me crazy to say that. I think the Yankees are built to beat the Red Sox. I have no faith in Sale or Price in a big spot. I think those guys will choke it away, and I really like the Yankees in these games.
That's where I feel like Tito comes into play. If the Indians get by the Astros and have to face the Yankees, Tito's going to be the only thing that keeps this team from getting tight.
Yeah, I agree. Up. Kimbrel's a great reliever. The rest of the Red Sox relievers have had holes all throughout September.
Right.
I just think even though the Red Sox have a great lineup, they have 2 MVP candidates in J.D. Martinez and Mookie Betts, and there's been a lot of debate about who's going to win it. You see more Mookie Betts. I can actually argue J.D. Martinez in a way should win the MVP. Their lineup is stellar. There's no question the Red Sox have home field that does play an advantage in the playoffs, especially with Fenway because of the dimensions. All that said, I just have seen these two teams all year, and I think the Yankees have been sleeping around, kind of waiting for this moment to pounce. And I saw what I kind of felt was going to happen all year. The Yankees are ready to turn it on.
Two things with that. If it ends up being the Yankees, one, are we just as Indians fans still tentative, a little more nervous possibly to go against the Yankees if it comes to that because of dropping the 2-0 lead last season? Or is it something else, because the Yankees are just a little more solid than they were even last year? And then the second thought, I think I forgot it. So go ahead and address that one, and then I'll see if I can remember what I was thinking on the second one.
Well, the bigger thing is in this series with the Red Sox and Yankees, you just hope it goes long.
And that goes to my second thought. Do the Yankees run out of gas from all the emotion that come? Do they play off of that, or do they lose they lose gas after a tough long series against the Red Sox?
The one thing the Yankees don't have is starting pitching. No. Happ is probably their best starter. Luis Severino is a good example. Severino last night, he really didn't pitch great. He only barely got through 5 innings, and he was really on the ropes. That is something the Yankees have exposed. And what I learned last year from the Yankees, the more you see the relievers, the more hittable they become. And the relievers this year for the Yankees are not as strong as they were last year. I hear people saying the opposite. I would disagree. Britton got nailed last night in that Chris Davis pitch. We all saw Chad Green get hit. Robertson can get hit. He got hit against the Indians last year. And Chapman is not healthy. And that's the only thing I can say. Chapman, to me, looks good and he'll be ready. He's not going to go multiple innings, though.
No.
And Boone's kind of already mentioned that. So that's the positive about the Yankees. Again, we just talked about how the Indians are going in healthy. I don't know how much you can say that compared to the Yankees. As Didi just came off the DL. And again, Chapman, he pitched well, but he doesn't look as crisp and as perfected as usually Chapman can on the mound. Those are the positives you take in there. But look, they're scary, scary lineup. I mean, they just flex their muscles, and now this Voit kid's hitting the ball. I mean, it's everything you just get in a nightmare scenario. Like I said, I would love to see the Red Sox win because I would love to see Sale and Price in this next round. I think the Indians can hit those guys hard, but if I were in a Vegas table, I'd be like, I think the Yankees win it again on 4.
Well,
I don't think it goes 5.
I guess if we're gonna get to the World Series, we're gonna have to really earn it this season, and that's what it's gonna come down to.
No, agreed. Real quickly to the NLs. They're playing currently. We're at Thursday at 5, so we're currently in the Milwaukee, Colorado game. So just to go quickly, I mean, let's start off with this matchup. Real quickly on the Cubs. The Cubs had as many wins as anybody did in the NL, tied with the Brewers, and yet they're not in the playoffs.
Isn't it crazy?
That team looks so. I don't know if it's an Addison Russell thing that's going on. I don't know if it's motivation. They are very cocky, so I thought that team was motivated. But, boy, the Cubs, I was shocked. That was really a choke job against the Rockies. I thought the Brewers just
I kind of saw it coming when they couldn't wrap up the division last game of the season. You know? That's they set themselves up for failure as much as any team in baseball has in a while with that.
Well,
down to the last game of the season, couldn't wrap it up, and then they probably, it's almost like the Browns when they didn't get the first down call. You know?
Yeah.
That's what it ended up being.
Too much talent on that team. The quick sound bites afterwards said a lot too. You can tell they're kind of questioning where they're at. Again, I don't want to make this a Cubs thing, but I thought that was the Brewers are one thing. Is the Brewers are red hot right now, and they just have one of those games you can just see it developing in front of your eyes. The Rockies game, I know a lot of people are crediting the Rockies, and they deserve credit. They won the game, but boy, I thought the Cubs had plenty of chances to put them away, and they just couldn't do it. Just couldn't get a big hit in a big spot. So because of that, the two teams that take advantage of the Rockies and Brewers are playing now. This is a pretty, to me, straight up thing. The Colorado pitcher, who's a local kid from Denver, is a great pitcher. Really outside of that, the Rockies kind of have some question marks about what they can do starter-wise. The Brewers have when you really look at the Brewers lineup, Kane, Yelich, Braun, Travis Shaw, a local kid from Ohio, Aguilar, he's played for the Indians, Moustakas, those are names. The Brewers really do have a nice lineup here. Yep. I'm not going to go too deep into the whole. I love Wade Davis, too, as a closer for the Rockies. I love that. But the Brewers have a better bullpen. Their lineup, I think, is better than – I know the Rockies got some bats, but I like the Brewers lineup better. I think it's more playoff sounded, to be honest with you. So I like the Brewers in this series. I think they'll move on. And in the other – and again, when you really sit and look at it, and you mentioned it in the last one, and I'll give you kudos, and I kind of knew it, but I saw it on Monday. Yelich is really, really good. If people don't know, you're going to hear that name a lot. I think Yelich is an up-and-coming star, and he already is. He's going to win the MVP probably. So I like the Brewers in this series. I don't know what your thoughts are on the Rockies and Brewers, but it's kind of a hard series to get into unless you're in Milwaukee.
Well, and that's exactly it. I'm not. Yeah. It's tough for me to look at the NL. Period. It always has been. Baseball to me has always been American League. And I think part of that is, we've got the DH and, it's a cultural thing. I grew up AL. I believe in AL, and that's where I am.
I do too. Well, I'll say this quickly because the Brewers and Rockies to me are one thing. If you love baseball and you love sports, the Dodgers are fascinating.
Yes.
Kershaw is having back issues.
I'll give you that.
I think that's an interesting story. For people who don't know, Jansen, the closer for the Dodgers, is not pitching well. He does not look good. So can the Dodgers, and no Seager, he's been out all year. So can the Dodgers with this team really put something together against really names, unless you really follow baseball, the Braves, you know Freddie Freeman, but really outside of that, Ozzy Albies and, Nick Markakis is a familiar name, but Acuna, I mean, he had that great hitting streak earlier this year, but, these are names you really don't know. They don't roll off the tongue per se. So all that in mind, I do like the Dodgers in this series to move on. I actually think the Brewers, I'm kind of picking up what you said, and I've been reading a lot. I think the Brewers are actually going to make it out of the NL.
Yeah, it's Brewers. That's where I'm leaning for sure. I'm leaning Brewers, especially when you talk about teams getting hot. It always makes a difference, depending on when they're hot. But at the same time, it does make a difference. But another hypothetical, since I seem to be on that today, would it be nice to put everything to bed with an Indians-Braves series?
Yeah, I would. I would also say this. There would be a lot of magic if it was Brewers and Indians because of the Major League. Because for people who don't know, Major League was actually filmed in Milwaukee County Stadium, and the radio announcer is Bob Uecker.
Yes.
So there'd be a lot of Major League.
Yeah, he's still doing their radio, right?
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct. So there'd be a lot of Major League magic to that. Yeah, I think the big thing with the Braves is they got years to come. The Dodgers are the team because the Dodgers have some real glaring issues off of the team last year. It was a team that was set to ready to roll to win it all. So can the Dodgers overcome this stuff is what really comes down to. Just real quickly, because I like making predictions, and for people who are out there, don't hold my bets to it because you'll lose all your cash. But
yep.
I do, I think it's Yankees-Indians. I would have no real feel for this. I would stay so far away from it. I'll just, because I'm a homer, I'll take the Indians in 7. And I think if the Indians and Brewers are overplaying, the Indians would just clean up. So I think this is the year. I hope that gives them good luck and not jinx them. But I really do like the Indians to win it all. I think I just have liked how this season's played out. I liked how there wasn't as much pressure in September from either a winning streak or for winning a division in 16. None of that came into play. I think it makes for a team that's ready to go into playoffs. Time will tell, and I think they have the right manager to do it. I think, 48, 70 years is long enough. I do like the Indians. Again, I'm not naive. Beating the Astros and the winner of the Yankees-Red Sox is not a cakewalk.
You know what? I'm gonna go upset here, though. I'm gonna go Indians in 5 against the Astros, and then I'm also gonna go Indians in 6 against the Red Sox.
Wow. I hope you're right. Is the Indians and Red Sox? I would love the Indians. I think the Indians match up so much better than the Red Sox compared to the Yankees. I just think the Yankees have a thunderbolt in them. I think that, by the way, if it's Yankees, Indians, and ALCS, that will be you want to talk about a Mayock smasher. Those games will be a lot of patience.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to, you and I won't be texting back and forth because my heart's going to be thumping and I'm going to be, gripping my couch cushions.
No.
I know that's how it's going to be.
No, I'm with you. I think it'd be grip. I think it'd be a lot of that stuff. So as we wrap up, I think the bigger thing for people to, again, this has been not a season of dreams. We've kind of mentioned it before. Bauer's really the only thing that's in question. As we're doing this podcast, we don't know the final roster spot. But again, I don't know how much you want to put stock into that. I would take, Gonzalez and Davis. I know you kind of thought similar. I'm surprised Geyer made it, but okay, with that said, he made it. And he's had big hits in the World Series and playoffs.
Yeah, that was the one thing with Geyer that I'm okay with, is that he might have struggled this season, especially defensively. But I'm okay with Geyer because he's got the playoff experience, and I'll take that. I will take that. Right. But that's why I'm disappointed it's not Tomlin, and that's why I really want Rajay. That experience to me, and it's only because I feel like the rest of the team is so freaking solid. That's where I am.
The only thing I'd say about Rajay, and then I'll leave on this note, Rajay brings a stealing ability that I've seen in playoff games make a big difference. And he's got speed. He's got great base ability to take first to second. And that's what it comes down to sometimes. That's why I guess for what they're doing, I guess I would roll the dice and not put Gonzalez on there. I would take Davis. And just because I think Davis could go into a game and really make a difference. And if Gonzalez were ever in the field, I'd be holding my breath sawing what I saw this year from him. He fielded really well the year before, but this year he just did not have a clean year. So that would make me nervous. I'll leave on that note. But with that said, And Francona, I trust. I don't think Jose's slump will carry over. I think he'll be good. And I think the Indians will make it through.
Let's do it. World Series, Cleveland Indians. This is your postseason preview. I'm hoping they get it done, Andy. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson. This is Cleveland and Beyond. Thanks for tuning in. Andy, we're going to talk more Browns, right around the corner tomorrow, another day, right?
Tomorrow, another day. A lot of things to discuss always with the Cleveland Browns. Never a dull day. Enjoy your day, everybody.
All right, brother. Take care. Talk soon. Hey, don't forget to follow Andy and Jared Cleveland and Beyond on Facebook at facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond, and on Twitter at CLE and Beyond. That's at CLE and Beyond on Twitter. You can also shoot us an email, andyandjared@gmail.com. Looking forward to hearing your comments. Take care, everybody.